The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
It's crazy. All right.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, folks. We had episode 67, and today we give you a little treat. I think we've fallen off with the consistency of doing it, but it's about people, is what we're going to cover today. And meaning, maybe not so much paycheck driven, but just people, life. Before we get into it all, what's good, Walt?
What's good, man? No complaints over here. Just relaxing. When I saw the Thunderbolts movie,
Oh, you saw Thunderbolts.
yeah,
Okay.
it was pretty cool. It was a really good, interesting take on a Marvel movie. It had some action, but
Okay.
it had some, some deeper things that really went into. Not to tell you about the movie, but it went into like the mental health and a little bit of
Okay.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was a great movie for me.
The pop I've been hearing the feedback. There's a lot of good feedback. I'm looking forward to seeing it too. I just saw Sinners.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Sinners was really good. I'm excited about what they're doing, and really proud of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan on the
Yeah.
business tip and what they've been doing with making movies and building their business. Smart folks, and if you're looking to go into that world,
Yeah.
definitely use them as guidance on how you should do it.
This is like their third like film
Project together,
project
yeah.
together, right?
Yeah. I want to say they did Fruitvale Safe Station
Yes,
together,
yes,
right?
yes.
Even though that was a minute ago, like that
Yeah,
Fruitvale Station's old.
yeah,
My wife's like, "You keep getting me trying to watch it. I haven't seen it yet." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But
yeah,
it's a good one. Michael B. Jordan was young. That was probably their first one together.
yeah, I think so.
And then if people don't know Ryan Coogler, he did Wakanda,
Yeah.
or Black Panther rather.
Mhm.
But did he do both of them or just the second
I
one?
think he did the second one too. I
Both
think he
of
did both of
oh,
them. Yeah,
both of them,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And look, if you're curious, go look. But anywho, super proud of them on the business tip, and good movie, good content.
yeah. Storyteller.
Yeah, yeah, great stories, exactly. So what's good? What's good on the financial fitness tip?
Just continuing on, finding ways to become better. Like realizing, like, hey, when it comes to my with the shopping, realizing like,
Hmm.
hey, I can like I know we talked about it earlier, but like, hey, I'm gonna buy stuff from this place on from
Hmm.
Costco. Buy
Right,
certain things in bulk and make a
right.
trip there, and like that'll last. Like that'll save
Yes.
money. Like buying it that
Hmm.
way, like
Hmm.
versus going to Publix or a
Yep,
Kroger or whatever or
yep.
Aldi and getting like
Hmm.
a smaller pack and constantly having to do that. And that adds up.
Yeah,
Especially with how much toilet paper and paper towels that we use and stuff
yep,
like that. Like it just makes sense to go to like a wholesale store and buy certain things.
yep.
Like we can get a whole pack of a whole pack of chicken thighs, boneless chicken thighs. It's like $20, right,
Hmm.
for like a 6 pack, and
Hmm.
there's like 4 or 5 nice sized thighs in each one. So
Hmm.
like each one could be a meal or two. So that lasts
Hmm.
us a couple of weeks. So there's certain things, and there's learning how to use the money more wisely
Hmm.
versus like just because a lot of people don't think about that when it comes to going to buy groceries. They're just so used to
Yeah.
just, oh, I don't want a membership, and then a Costco membership that's $60 a month, and if you divide that by
No, it's a
12,
year though. It's an annual.
yes, I'm sorry, $60
Yeah,
a year, and you divide that by 12, that's only $5 a month.
exactly.
You got that. Most of you
Yeah,
probably got that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I get like the. I think the problem is that they don't do it monthly, because that's what we are. We've built ourselves into a subscription
yep,
economy where, yeah, I can't afford $1,000 in a year, but if you give me annual, I mean, if you give me monthly, I can
yeah,
afford it,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then so folks are not thinking about it, but still, you're right. $60, you should be able to,
Hmm.
and then plan for it, right? Like if that's the way y'all want to go, you plan for it and build to it. Like, all right, in a few weeks, I'm gonna be ready to do this so that I could switch over
Yep.
and then make the bulk spending part
Yeah.
of my routine.
And it's not that it's something I don't do the bulk purchasing. Like I don't do it like every month.
Every time, exactly.
It's like maybe once a quarter. 'cause there's
Mm-hmm.
so much toilet paper, so much paper towels, and
Yeah.
there's only me and one other person in the household right now at this moment, and, that lasts us, like, 5, 6
Mm-hmm.
months,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Exactly. And that, but see, now you speak to a good point too, because anytime you talk bulk buying, was like one of the things I learned early on when doing it is you can't just get everything you use in bulk, because some of it is perishable
Yep.
and it'll expire before you can use it. So
Yes,
now that is not a good solution.
because you end up still
You know what I
wasting.
mean?
Yep.
Because you're still wasting. So you got to be very intentional, like, and figure out, okay, how much do we use it? So it could take a little bit of time. Like, if you're
Oh,
saving the money to get the annual, you can use that time to figure out what will work for you.
and think about what you're and I hope it's okay that I share this, because I think you have shared it on the show about you going to see a
If not, we'll
financial
cut it
planner.
out. Oh yes.
Going to see a financial planner, and him saying that it takes a year to build out a budget, right?
Yep.
Think about that. A part your grocery purchases, that's a part of your
Yes.
budget, right?
Yes.
So like think
Yes.
about that. Like you have to build that into it if you're able to let that bulk
Yes.
buying and how you buy.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same kind of along the same lines, right? If you're getting serious about a budget,
Mm,
use that same time to track the food.
yep.
This is not so much, well, I guess it's a fitness channel, but not financial fitness, because by the on my side, I'm doing the same things, figuring out, right? But one
Hmm.
of the things that I'm doing on the healthy to try to make a healthy switch as well, um, is I'm looking at all the foods that we consume a lot of,
Uh huh.
right?
Uh huh.
Because some stuff, right, you only eat every now and then, but some stuff are staples, and
Yep.
staples are the things you eat every day. Bread, eggs, your
Yep.
staples.
Yep.
So bread is one that I switched already. So I use this app called Yuka. It's called
Yep.
it's spelled Yuka, right? I've shared it with you before a long
Hmm.
time. And it's one thing to have the app, it's another thing to use it.
Yep.
And some people get frustrated to use it because it really limits, like, you can't use it, how can I say, it becomes super frustrating if you try to use it for every single thing you buy when you go grocery shopping,
Yeah.
because you'll find out that, oh my gosh, this is bad, or this is poor, it's not rated good. Like, it rates everything on a scale of 0 to 100.
Hmm.
Under 50 is kind of not ideal. And then, it'll give you that green dot, and when it says good, and you're like, ooh, cool. Um so how can I say? So yeah, it gets frustrating if you try to do it on your whole grocery cart, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what I did instead was, well, let me start with the things that we use the most, our staples,
It's a good
right? So
call
it's
out.
bread. Bread being a great example. Scan the bread that we normally bought, crap. And when and let me qualify Yuka app. The Yuka app is really looking for preservatives.
Yep.
What are the preservatives that are I don't know, if folks are on a healthy tip, they'll, in their algorithms and in their feed, they'll start to get a lot of videos about, like, the in the UK, they don't
Yep.
even allow certain
Certain things,
foods
yes, and the
that they
cereals,
allow here.
the food
Right.
coloring, red 40.
Right.
Yep,
Red 40, yellow 50, da
yep,
da da. So that's what Yuka is looking for primarily.
mhm,
Okay. The secondary thing for Yuka, it does tell you if it's high in sodium, sugar, or fats.
yep,
That's the second tier of safety in my, if you like simplifying the understanding of Yuka.
mhm,
The first prime, the first thing is the red alert on the risks, on the preservative risk. These are preservatives that lead to, have been confirmed that it leads to issues,
yep,
right? Health
yep,
issues, cancer risks,
yep,
all kind of things, right? If it's red, it's a risk, red dot risk. Ooh, try to stay away from it.
yeah,
So, I look at it through that lens, and because there are some things where where, like, it's not good, but if you click in onto why it's not good,
mhm,
it might be it's high in sugar, or
yeah,
it's high in salt, or it's high
yeah,
in fat. So that necessarily may not be something that you don't want it for. You might be like,
yeah,
okay, I can deal with that.
but
That's
on
fine.
occasion like something I can have occasionally or every
Right.
so often, yep,
Right. Right. I can still have this understanding that it's high in salt, high in sugar, whatever, but it doesn't have any deadly preservatives.
chemicals, preservatives,
So,
yep, yep, mhm,
right. Let's qualify all the Yucca thing. Folks, this is not a commercial for Yuka. They do not sponsor the show yet.
Like, hey, I use your
I
app.
know
I
we
have a
need to,
podcast.
and I'm talking hella about you. So
Welcome to the Hire Her podcast, where women in talent call all the shots. We know, another recruiting podcast, just what the industry needs. Okay, but hear us out. You ever spend hours sourcing that perfect candidate, but they end up ghosting you harder than your hinge date? Or finally, you get that hiring manager feedback, only for them to, of course, say, "Can we see more candidates?" Lame, right? But let's talk about what's really lame in the industry. How is it that 65% of recruiters are brilliant women, yet most of the decision makers look like a convention for middle-aged dudes named Brad?
That's where we come in. Hire Her isn't just another podcast about hiring trends you already heard like 50 times this week. We're here to elevate women in talent, share their career journeys, and make sure they take the lead. Because let's face it, if recruiting is the backbone of every company, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? So whether you're a recruiter, a talent leader, or just someone trying to swim through the sausage fest of TA leadership, we got you, girl. Welcome to Hire Her, the recruiting podcast where women's voices aren't just heard, but they're leading the conversation.
So subscribe now, because middle management Brad sure as hell isn't going to do it for you.
so point is, I'm doing like bread. I switched,
Yeah.
and you even get mad at brands sometimes, but at the same time you're like, "Ugh, fine, because the brand that I was buying for bread,
Hmm.
they have a separate loaf that is
Healthier.
Yuka approved,
Yes.
healthy, but the mass production loaf is
Yep.
not.
Yep.
So it's like, really, guys?
Yo,
Like,
look, bro. They need to appease all audiences.
I mean, if people were buying things that are risky, they're gonna keep selling it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's like alcohol almost. Like, yeah, alcohol kills people, but guess what? It's legal and people still buy it and then
Yep.
they're gonna sell it.
Yep.
So it is what it is.
Uh,
So yeah. So in addition to the financial fitness piece, I'm also looking at the food part, and
but
you
that
know,
that is a part of it, though. That's like, even though you buy it, you're still gonna have to. You may have to change how you budget. 'Cause something may be more expensive, or you can
you,
still roll it up in there.
you got me think. You know what? That's interesting because you're right. Because if you think about it long term,
Hmm.
you're actually saving yourself future doctor
That's
bills,
another way. Yep, that's another way to think about it.
future money issues,
Yep.
right? Even insurance or not,
Yep.
if you're in the doctors all the time, you're gonna be spending more money and more time and more effort to get yourself healthy later,
Yep.
or heaven forbid, your family's gonna feel a serious impact
Yep.
because you're risking your life eating certain
Yep.
things, right? I know, I'm definitely not going to call this out, but I know family folks that, because this, elderly person had a bad diet for so long, they had a stroke.
Yep.
And now it's a huge burden on their family
Yep.
to take care of them because their diet was, you know, horrible,
Yep.
basically. And it can lead to stroke.
Yeah.
And this is real talk.
Yeah.
You
It
know what
is.
I mean? So that's a good call out. It is a financial fitness
It's a part of it, man.
strategy.
It is.
It's a part of it that serves two things: your money and your health.
Yep.
You know, oh, I'll give you another good one is we're leveraging my wife's gym membership,
There you go.
right? I just go as a buddy with her because she's allowed a buddy every time she goes.
Hmm.
So we go together,
Hmm.
and that's the savings right there. I don't have to get a gym membership,
Yep. You don't have to get your own. Yep.
right? And then in lieu of that, my company has a gym in the building. I take
Yep.
advantage of that.
You see
So
that?
it's little
You see that
things.
thing right there? That mirror that you see?
A mirror,
That's
yeah.
the exercise thing.
It's not the black mirror, is it?
I hope not. That's the exercise thing. Like has the training stuff. I have a set of weights right here next to me, and and I use it. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Right.
use it however many times I work out a week, and even if I take a break off for a little bit, like I still have it here for my disposal to like use, and it ended up costing more on the upfront, and I paid off that mirror like a year or two ago. I don't have to make any more payments on it, and it's done. And I just use it. I just pay for the trainer part of it.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. Nice. That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. So let's go. Let's get into it. What do you got for us today on some news
Look, so we're talking about just
or
life. It's
talking
about people,
points?
and,
Yep.
and like in today's title will probably change it, but it's just about life, and I put life as lifing, whatever. So
No doubt. Yeah, yeah.
but look, anxiety levels have increased over the years,
Yep.
particularly amongst younger adults, right?
Hmm.
And there are studies that show that a significant increase in anxiety and depression, the symptoms have been amongst young adults between 2005 to 2017. And the rates increased by 63% in those 12 years, bro. And that's
Wow.
before, and it says COVID-19 also contributed to a rise, that anxiety increased by 25% in 2020. But still,
Wow.
like the 63% between 2005 until 2017, like that's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yep.
And I think it's because like between that time we saw such a boost. And because if I think about the 2005, the internet, yeah, had been out for a little while, but I think still you could I was still only getting my news from maybe locally and not on a global scale, and different things were going on. But then like between 2005 and 2017, we started seeing things happen. Like you could look at the news overseas and do this and do that,
Hmm.
and just everything that's bad, you started getting notifications on your phone, and all this, like, things started getting more expensive through that time. And you know like prices going up, and but the your pay didn't go up to match it, right? Because
Hmm.
of inflation. And
Hmm.
so people like,
That's a constant
yeah,
error. I was gonna say, but here's an error. That's a constant issue because it
yeah,
never matches the rate of
yeah,
inflation. Like
mhm,
our raise rates never match. So like that's a good one too. I'm
yeah.
sorry to harp in on that one and cut you off,
No,
but
you good.
like folks out there don't feel well. I don't how can I say don't feel attacked personally if you didn't get more than a 3-4% raise this
Standard.
year.
Mhm.
That because it's standard across the board. Do
Yeah,
not feel personally attacked. Do not feel like your company doesn't value you. That's just the standard. And if there are things to do more if you want more. We talk about it all the time. Invest in yourself. The company can only do so much. Like at the end of the day, you got to
oh,
remember the company's not in business to make you rich. They're right. They're
yeah,
to make your individual. Oh, they're not in business to solve your personal financial situation. So you took
yes.
the job with a rate, and like that's it.
And,
What's up?
and you have to understand, look, there, like when you do research and Google it, you have to understand that, because this is what it says: the average salary increase for a promotion generally falls between, this is per promotion, right? Generally falls between 8 to 18%. That's a promotion.
What is that? 8 to 18% for a promotion?
Yeah.
Yes, that sounds
And
right.
so, but that's promotion. Like Brian was saying, in the US, the annual increase per salary or per your pay is between 3 to 5%.
Yep. See, there you go. And then what's as opposed to inflation?
Hmm. Oh, and opposed to inflation, yeah,
Inflationary rates are higher.
yeah,
you know
hmm,
so if you compare it, yeah, we're always behind the eight ball,
yeah,
getting the our rates. And that's a good, like, again, we can't talk enough about it. We kind of, even if we did a whole show, like we could do a whole show on that,
yeah,
but I think we talk enough about it randomly in all the shows.
hmm,
And I think you know it's kind of just making me think a lot about being an employee versus
hmm,
trying to build more financial freedom.
yeah,
Is not going to come just from well, it's not necessarily going to come just from your job, because we're not all going to be high earners. We're not all going to be graduating from Harvard starting at six figures,
yeah,
you know what I mean, and getting right into the C suites and the
yep,
leadership roles of things, right? The
yeah,
masses are working their way up,
yep,
and there may not be a quick path for you to get to the top. And if there is, it can take a lifetime of a career to get there.
yep,
You know what I mean? It can take a while. Like
yeah,
you gotta or like, so it's either you're taking that path and you, because at one point I thought, yeah, I'm gonna come climb the corporate ladder, yay. And then I realized, well, this corporate
Mhm.
ladder is gonna take a while,
Yeah,
right? And it's like, wait, I gotta climb, and on the side
bro.
hustle, right?
But
Gig work and
I would say, like, for me, I don't know if you said, like the first like 8 to 10 years of the career, there was the struggles there, man. Like
mm-hmm,
getting paid what I was getting paid,
mm-hmm,
like living, just scraping
paycheck to
by,
paycheck. Yep, yep.
like struggling. Like the struggle was real. And
What
then
about that?
last 10 years,
That
like saw a
is
increase,
it?
right?
Yeah, but last 10 years exactly, because we've already been in it 3 decades,
Yeah.
2-3 decades of doing this.
Hmm.
What about that post you sent me about how Gen Z feels like they need to make $500,000 a year
To have a good
to
life
be to have the American dream of a house, a picket fence, and 2 cars? You know
and
what I mean?
for
They
the
need to
kids. Yep.
each make,
Yep.
basically the household needs to bring in $1 million a year to have the American dream,
Bro.
according to Gen Z and how they see it in
Well,
today's economy.
we did, remember we did and I think what people don't understand is that no matter what level of money you make, you're going you typically people typically try to live or have a life according to what they make, right? So if I make
Right.
$1 million, I have $1 million lifestyle.
Life. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? If I
Right.
have 500,000 collectively, I have a $500,000
Yep.
lifestyle. So
Yep.
that's what they're that's I think that's what Gen Z is equating it to. If I could
For sure.
estimate,
No,
that's
no,
what
no,
I
for
think it
sure.
is, right?
Because and that's how most folks think of it. But uh, to that point, the secret is right, because if your if your algorithm is adjusted that way, the secret is living below your means.
Yep. If you can, yep.
If you can, well, you can if you're intentional out the gate,
Yeah.
and if you're intentional about getting there, even if after you've made error,
Yeah.
you can right, if you want to, is more kind of
Yeah.
the thing, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're young in the game and you start out that way, you definitely can, and you can keep it that way. If you're already in a situation, you can get out of it, because it may take a few years, but
Hmm.
you can, right? But that's the secret of really leveraging your
Yep.
pay, is living below your means. That doesn't mean living poverty or living
Look,
it means
yeah.
drive a used car that you don't have a car payment on, as opposed to paying $1,000 a month to have a Mercedes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Drive a Toyota instead of a Mercedes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's it doesn't mean that you don't have the things in life. It
Yeah.
means you choose to live below your means.
Look.
A great example is when folks get a raise, they automatically want to, ooh, I want to
Yes.
level up.
Yep.
Don't level up. You know what
Everything's
I
working
mean?
for like,
What are you going to say?
look, man. Because look, I have a nice Honda. It's doing me right. It's like a 2017. No issues with the
Mhm.
car. It's running
Mhm.
perfectly. I picked a good one, right? And
Yep.
like little things that I want to improve, I'm doing myself. Like I wanted new seat covers to make it look a little bit more sleek. Did that the
Mhm.
other day. Got it off something off of like Amazon or online, and
Yeah, there
like
you
put
go.
it in myself. It was like $50 instead of having
Mhm.
someone like professionally do it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, and having to pay
Right.
hundreds and maybe potentially thousands of dollars to
Right.
make it
Instead
look
of
nice.
professionally getting it reupholstered
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
Right.
And like $50, it looks nice,
Right.
and and the car is working good. Like I don't have to like because I feel like I need a brand new car. The Honda is working good. It looks
Yep.
good. Whatever. So I'm okay. Think about Warren Buffett. I think they say he's like the guy that drives the same old
Yes.
Oldsmobile or
Yes.
were Buick.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
a
And he's a
billionaire. You know what I'm
billionaire.
saying?
Yep.
So like I think it's
Yep.
to the point. And look, sorry to drag this on before we get to you what you got. Like, and the
No,
last
no,
point is that
all good.
20% of people that make over $150,000.
This message is brought to you by Abercrombie Kids, where the activewear is made for every summer activity, so your mini-me can bring their personal best. Summer days are always an adventure, from day camp to rec leagues and pool days. Abercrombie Kids has the shorts, tees, and swim to keep them comfy and keep up with them. Get everything for the entire summer at Abercrombie Kids. Shop in-store, online, or in the app.
So I make that or higher.
Hmm.
They said they live paycheck to paycheck too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Think if 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, that is
Mhm.
like that's covers all millionaires
Yeah.
could live paycheck to paycheck.
Yes,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? They're all in that bucket,
Because you
right? Because
bought
bad money decisions are not exclusive to the poor.
because you bought that
So
$1 million home, multi-million
that's
dollar
right.
home, and you forgot
That's
about that
right.
you don't have to pay those taxes.
Yep. Think about all the athletes and celebrities who make millions at a time and they're broke because they thought they were going to be able to maintain
That
that level of
lifestyle.
spending and that
No,
lifestyle, right? And nope,
no,
that's not the case.
no.
That's not the case. So yeah, shoot, we could go on all the whole show about that, but
What you got for us, man?
man, just a little bit of around the horn. We're talking
Nice.
about people, just kind of current events. They recently picked up new pope, and the first time I didn't realize it was the first time an American pope
Yeah,
is a pope.
yeah.
Interesting. Um,
People are mad at him though
what else? People are mad at him. Why?
because like when he first came out, like he didn't speak. He didn't do a speech in English. He
A
did it in
different.
like French,
Oh,
some like 2 or 3 other languages, Italian and some other language, right? And so some American people were like, "Well, you could have.
of
It
course,
seems less American."
of course. Gotta be mad. Another one is a tough student was
Mm,
released by ICE. Okay, so I didn't mean, hey, good look, it's around the horn. I don't know the details there. Newark
mhm.
mayor was arrested.
Wow.
Interesting. Mayor state getting arrested. Let's see, what is this? Live updates. Second, blah. There was a measles outbreak
Yeah,
apparently. Newark airport had issues. I did know about
yeah.
that. The Knicks lost game 3.
But they've been doing
Um,
good, man. Like, look, it's a back and
they
forth
are doing
series.
good.
Boston's a
I
great
know.
team.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about because I was like, it's a 7-game series. They're gonna want it to go 7 games and not be done in the first 4 and get
Nah,
swept, you know. So it's a battle there. So NBA playoffs are going on. Door and Shiloh did get signed to teams. Like,
yeah,
just
nice.
gotta think all the sports stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Let's go. So, I mean, we're getting into our main show after we already talked about a lot, but
yeah.
we ended off on a just kind of talk a little bit about life, and
Yeah.
and Walt has some great information here for us. How you want to start us off, Walt?
So I started off with this first section, and then we'll just go back and forth, and then you just do the next one, and
Yes, sir.
we ended off. There's 4 different points here, and we'll just start it. So in 2025, you know that the weight of modern life is feeling heavier than ever. Burnout, anxiety, emotional fatigue are no longer isolated experiences, right? They kind of woven themselves into the fabric of our daily lives. So this episode is about, it's a call to pause, reflect, and reconnect to what is important, right? And what it
I
means
like
to
that.
be human in the world. Because there's a lot of demands out there on us, and we
Yep.
often give more than what we can.
Yeah.
So look,
Yeah. Absolutely.
there's a lot of state of stress. I'm sure that there's felt in other countries, but just we're talking about America right now. So 2/3 of American workers are 66% report experiencing burnout, with the highest rates amongst young adults, those aged between 18 to 34.
Hmm.
So this can cause complex, overwhelming. So the causes behind those are complex. So it could be those overwhelming workloads, those insufficient resources, pervasive sense of instability. For Gen Z, 73% are considering leaving their jobs because of burnout, toxic environments, or lack of appreciation as key factors.
Hmm.
And, in the hospitality industry, burnout is rampant. You know what I'm saying? So workers
Yeah, for
are
sure.
facing longer hours, low pay, very poor or minimal benefits, which can
Hmm.
lead to the high turnover and crisis in staffing, which is just like an endless, continuous cycle. If you don't have people that want to stay, you always have a revolving door, and that can become stressful because, like, oh, this person just started last week and they left already. I need you to come in and work a double or work, a 12-hour, 16-hour shift. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
healthcare professionals are also under immense pressure
For sure. Yep.
with the systematic issues contributing to high rates of burnout and occupational distress. So that's what it is, man. It seems like a lot of people are stressed out about work. And look, we've been there ourselves, right? You know, guys,
Yeah,
we've
heck
been there
yeah.
ourselves where being in those toxic environments, and it's
Yep.
unfortunate that those things are still allowed to be going on, right? That that these companies are like just it's the American model though, right? Unfortunately.
That's what I was gonna say, man. We need to get away from it, but it's gonna take time because you know the system allows for folks to get away with toxicity
Hmm.
because you know folks don't want to go on the record for saying
Hmm.
he did this or she did that
Yeah,
and point fingers and document it and go on record for it and actually battle the status quo,
yeah.
like the norm. um and toxic managers can get away with this BS because nobody really wants to go
Nobody's
against them.
checking them. Nobody's checking them, and they're allowed to do it. So even if
Yep.
you go, like typically,
Yep.
it starts from ownership down,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
if ownership has a certain viewpoint on life and work, and you complain, they're just like some owners. They just see you as a butt in the seat. Like, hey, I can always get somebody to come in and do this job. I'll throw a
Hmm.
little money at them, more money than they made, even though they could probably deserve more. But throw a little money at them and throw a title at them, and I'll get somebody here quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, shoot, in '08, they didn't, it's a while back now, but '08 we went through, and I think honestly, not just '08, any recessionary periods,
Hmm.
which they say we're going to go through or are going through right now, folks will tell you, well, you should be glad you have a job,
Hmm.
right? And I think what I struggle with as being an elder statesman at this point is, and coming through toxic corporate America, and the stat that you pointed out about Gen Z kind of
Hmm.
really confirms my feeling, is like,
Hmm.
where is that middle ground between toxicity
Hmm.
and laziness,
Hmm.
or lack of just, you know I guess lazy, yeah, I mean, not wanting to work. People just don't have that work ethic, that work hard, smart ethic, go hard or go
Yeah.
home type of mentality. Where's the middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot of Gen Zers that are just like, wow, I don't want to work this hard.
Well, look,
What's up?
they may have seen their parents like work hard, or still see their parents
Okay.
working hard, right? And they're like,
Okay.
hey, I don't want to do that. I saw my mom or my dad working these long hours just to have this sort of life, and it impacted me in this way, and I don't want that for myself or my potential future partner and kids, whatever it may be, right? It could that could be. Look, I can go down. We can go down a rabbit hole for all the different reasons why
Mhm.
a certain generation may feel a certain way about that, right? That's one of the things that
Mhm.
the first things that pop into my mind. But I absolutely think you're right. Like, maybe we should have a conversation with them and see.
That's what I was just thinking
Yeah,
too. I would love to get somebody Gen Z wise to come in
yeah,
that can explain, help us understand what that is, because it's just all too often young folk don't want to put in that work.
yeah.
And I
Mhm.
just don't understand why. And I look, it makes it easier for some of us to excel beyond, because, and it makes it easier for, younger folks that do understand that they need to work and be to really kind of rise above the crowd
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
easily. They
yeah.
easy, like, I'm blessed with I work with two young folks now that get it,
Mhm.
right? I'm super impressed with the fact that they're young and they
Yeah,
they work smart and hard, and
yeah.
you know thank God we're not in a toxic environment, so it's easier for them, I think, to thrive. But even, yeah, I guess I'm not saying to be in a like to stay in toxic environments, not by any means, but if you're not in a toxic environment, then do you still feel that way, like, oh, I don't want to work that hard, I ain't trying to do all this work?
Maybe.
So I guess that's a different call out too,
Yeah, yeah.
um so what else here? Can we read off some of these next kind of healing
No,
strategies?
I'll do
Where we
the
at?
beyond the workplace. You can do the healing strategies, the last two. I'll do the first two, and you do the last
Okay,
two. Okay. And
roger
then so
that.
beyond the workplace, the emotional toll, right? Like the
Gotcha.
climate crisis has added another layer of anxiety, particularly against those younger folks, right? Because more younger folks are paying attention to that, and studies show that nearly 60% of youth are extremely worried about climate change, with a lot of them feeling, hopeless, anxious, or even angry at the generations before them because they feel like they didn't do a good job with the environment. So
Right.
that's created an emotional burden that's underscored the need for supportive, climate aware counseling and adult engagement to kind of foster hope for the future and resilience, right? So I
Right.
think there's a lot of young folks that are more, they're looking at that, they're seeing like all these different things happen in the world, and they're kind of worried about it. They're really worried about it, and they want to have a place for their future generations, their kids
Yeah.
to like have a stable environment to live in. So that's it, man.
It's a good call out. It makes me think about this comedian who did a joke, Nate Barzagate, something like that. Funny dude. I love his comedy. And he was saying something about this, like how the youth is like blaming their predecessors, and he's like that would be like me blaming my grandmother for something like this. He's like it
Yeah,
sounds crazy. Of course, he just made a joke of it and all,
yeah.
but there's some there's a middle ground there that can be addressed, but some of it is ignorance, right? Like our prior generations, they didn't know that it was going to
No,
impact
look,
the environment,
look,
you
and a
know?
lot of them, they didn't have the internet like we did. We
Word.
we had the internet come out when we were in our teens and like
Yeah.
young adulthood and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Young
And
adulthood.
then
Yeah.
like once the internet came out, we were privy and made privy to a world of information,
Yep. In
like
real time.
in real time. And so like
Yep.
that's the difference, right? Like you said, I think it points to that. Not
Yeah.
willful ignorance. It's just
Right.
wasn't
Right.
exposed
And
to.
look, that runs the gamut too, because there are some folks that were like, yeah, I don't care
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
environment impact. I'm going to make these millions. Right. So,
Yeah, that's true.
there is definitely a spectrum of things there.
Yeah.
But all right, cool. So then now finding our way back, some strategies for healing, right?
Hmm.
In the face of all these things, there's some paths to resilience. And, one of them is mindfulness and meditation. And
Hmm.
this is something that my therapist is trying to get me to a point where I can find that time. And it's hard. Like, it's really hard
Hmm.
when you're a busy person. I literally pack my day with a lot of different things. And, she's like, Brian, you have to find some time to just quiet space
Yep.
quiet space. She's like, wake up earlier,
Yep.
do so, like try to find it because and she's taught me some breathing techniques, some deep
Hmm.
breathing practices. Guided meditation could also help reduce the stress and improve emotional regulation.
Yep.
And that's right. That's helpful because then now you're not reacting in an explosive manner to
Yep.
things, right? You're able to take on challenges as opportunities and not death sentences.
Yes.
It was the end of the world. Oh my God. No, it's like, all right, what am I going to learn from this
Yeah.
opportunity?
Yeah.
Because you're practicing some mindfulness and meditation. So it's like, what's up?
And look, my therapist during my therapy sessions, they told me even if it's 5 minutes, like taking those 5 minutes can have a
Yep,
world of impact for you in your
it's
day.
true.
You
Yep.
just step outside if you have a yard and put your feet in the
Hmm.
grass, get some
Yep.
sunlight, go for a 5 minute walk,
Yep.
like just sit and just like just close your eyes, and whatever thoughts come, let them
Yep.
come. Whatever
Yep.
sounds you hear, let them come, and just like focus.
Yes.
Yep.
Same day. So and it's funny you say that because that's one of the ways that I'm getting some of that time is
Mhm.
when I go take my dog for a walk. I there's times that I won't bring my phone
Yep. Perfect.
and I'll just because if you got the phone in your pocket, you're gonna be
Yep.
being tempted to
Yep.
be walking and just on your phone. Nope, leave the phone home. And especially the morning walks is good with no
Yeah.
phone because it's quiet out, right? There's no people out distract. Hey, Brian, blah, blah,
Yeah, and you can do these things until they become a habit, because a lot of other times we
Yes.
we create habits that we want to
They're bad. Yeah.
numb those feelings, right? So
Hmm.
we may drink or
Yep.
partake in other things or whatever, and go
Yep.
from there.
That's right. So this next one is another thing that my therapist is recommending is needed me to do is journaling. Writing down the thoughts and feelings. It helps us process the emotions to reduce that mental overwhelming. You
Mm,
get mentally overwhelmed by
yes.
all the things that you want to think about, and oh, I gotta, you're worrying about all these
Yeah.
things, and journaling will help you get it down, because then you feel like you have it somewhere, it's captured,
Mm,
right? And you can type too. You can type, you can voice note,
yep. The
you can
voice note.
write,
Yep.
whatever medium method is good for you,
Yep.
right? I'm not saying you have to pull out a pencil and start writing. No,
Yeah.
if that's what works for you, great.
Yeah.
I still like writing, so I can write. There are times that I do voice notes because
Yeah.
that's the medium that's convenient for me. And I might be in the car, right?
Yeah. And
What's up?
one thing that my therapist told me is that, like,
The use case podcast is where technology vendors get to talk about themselves. And it's a wonderful place for vendors, investors, and practitioners to listen to the story of the solution, the features, the benefits, the attributes, etc. And we get to know the CEO or founder during the call, and we also get to know the tech. So subscribe to the use case podcast.
write down, journal whenever you feel any type of emotion, because like you said,
Oh,
if
love it.
you're super happy and really giddy and like you have a
Yep.
extreme and like this super
Right.
high, and then something comes and knocks you down,
Crashes it
you're gonna
down.
swing to
Yep.
the other side. So she said write
Yep.
down everything. If you're happy, write it down. If you're sad, if you're mad, whatever type of emotion it is, write it
Hmm.
down so you can give yourself a place to like put that.
Yep. Exactly right. I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. Another one is sleep and nutrition, which
Mhm.
we just talked a little bit about. Not the sleep part. We were definitely talking about the nutrition part, but prioritizing quality sleep and balanced diet supports physical and mental health.
Yep.
People don't realize that if you don't get, because some folks, oh, I only need 4 hours of sleep. I'm an
Bro.
animal. I'm a bad. I'm a da, da, da."
Mhm.
But are you, if that may be the case, if there are no issue, if you have no issues in your life, but if you see that you are suffering mentally, emotionally, financially, and whatnot, and sleep might be part of that.
Mhm.
So prioritizing whatever the quality sleep, right? It doesn't say how many hours, because it is different a bit
Yep.
from person to person, but prioritize sleep and nutrition. Social connection, talking to
Oh.
friends, family, trusted confidants, can provide comfort and perspective, right?
Mhm.
Because if you stay alone in your head, oh my gosh, that's dangerous,
Yeah.
right? You need to talk to somebody.
Yep.
And then the last one is acts of kindness. Interesting, which my therapist also mentioned. But engaging in community work or simple acts of kindness can enhance resilience and reduce stress.
Yes, right.
Very
Because
interesting.
you'll feel good doing something for somebody else, right?
Yeah,
Even if you're having a bad day, you know what? Let me push beyond this. And you know what? That made me feel a little bit better, like
right.
doing this for somebody else, and that brought me some joy,
Hmm.
right? And
Exactly
then
right.
what's the last part, man?
So, last part is a collective responsibility. It says addressing the stress epidemic requires systemic change.
Hmm.
Employers must invest in supportive technologies, maintain open dialogue,
Like
create
Francis.
healthier work environments. Yes, like Francis. Shout out to Francis. Society must prioritize mental health, which I think it's doing. We're
Yeah.
seeing that trend, and recognize that well being is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Love that.
Yeah.
Great way to end it. Yeah. So, and again, as we close it out, we navigate some complexities of modern life.
Yeah.
It's crucial to remember that we're not alone,
Yes.
right? Reach out to some community, and by acknowledging our struggles and seeking some support, we can begin to heal. Let's commit to creating a world where people come first. And I think we are moving in that trend where empathy, understanding, compassion guide our actions instead of, you know, pure what financial
Yeah.
self interest and things like that. So yeah, man, great conversation here. And
Nice, man.
you want to end us? What do you got a quote or a question of the day?
Question. Just real quick. Should there be an agency that monitors toxic work environments?
Oh, that would be amazing.
Right?
That would be amazing.
Imagine if there was something, even if it was something that was initially started for free, like, hey,
Yep.
here's this site. Tell us you have
Yep.
a work, like, and it calls it out the company, like, hey, this is why these people. Like, I know people say like
Like a Yelp.
There's glass door,
Well, I was gonna say, well, but Glassdoor, I think it's become that, but I don't
Yeah,
know if that's what it is.
yeah,
But Glassdoor is a good one because I have seen a lot of HR professionals use Glassdoor as a
yeah.
gauge of how people perceive the company.
Absolutely. But
So
what I meant by this question is like when I say agency, government agency, or even if it's like some type of certified agency, like even if it's a civilian thing that monitors that stuff to keep companies honest. Like, hey, you're mistreating these workers, you're underpaying these
yeah,
workers. Like something that can like say, hey, like you should not be doing this, and like potentially like
that's a good
you know.
yeah, that's a good call because that's something to think about. I would like to we should keep thinking and talking about that because like initially I see it like as a Yelp type of thing, a
Mhm.
Yelp for the glass door,
Yeah,
more intentional, like, but toxicworkplace.com, and you
yeah.
don't want to be on there.
Yeah,
You know what I
for
mean?
real,
Right?
for real.
Companies should, right? And
Yeah,
the they have the best places to work, but do they have the worst places to work?
exactly.
And like you don't want to be on that list. You
Nope.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
But you bring up a good point because now can we fold it into an actual monetary impact
Yes.
where if your company is on this list,
Boom.
it's subject to some type of I don't know what the right
Yeah,
impact could be,
yeah.
and maybe that could be the
Oh,
conversation. But like,
that would be an incentive for change, right? If companies got dinged, hey, you got because you're on this list, you have to pay a fee, 5%, 10%. I guarantee
oof,
you that 10% get a lot of
oof,
people to change how they do stuff.
that's right. Like you got to pay an excess tax because you keep coming up on this list,
Yes, bro.
or like in addition to the tax, an auditor has to go and like an
Yes.
auditor has
Yep.
to go and like spend time in your organization
Yep.
interviewing
A brigade of
folks.
people come out and just interview and just yep.
Yep, and
Mhm.
just kind of go if shoot it could and like, it can be AI because then you talking about brigade of people. Now we're talking big costs, right? It could be one person, but
Yeah.
with some AI
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
tools
Yeah.
that are interviewing all levels, but somebody is actually visiting
Yeah.
locations, and getting feet and like that would be that would be something because what would that look like? That's a great. We gotta keep talking about that.
Yes, sir.
That would be great.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's something right there. But yo, man, it was awesome, man. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate you, bro,
Likewise,
and
bro.
thank you. Thanks, folks, for joining, and hope you enjoy our conversations as we move through the world and
Yes, sir.
life and business and work. We love you. Till the next time.
Stay strong.
Peace.
Peace.